Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Jenkins. I'm Managing Director of UK Packaging Innovation Consultancy, ThePackHub, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Carl Pion, who is co-founder and CEO of packaging innovation business Sipz. Hi, Carl. How are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely well. It's been a pretty good week so far now that we're a finalist over at the Packaging Europe Awards. And although we didn't win, I mean, my CMO, Ollie Cattermural, is just crushing it over there. And yeah, we're doing really well.
Excellent. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that later. I think you came in the top five out of over 300, so incredible achievement there.
Thank
So
you.
before we talk about your technology and your new innovation, let's just tell me a little bit about yourself. I'd like to find out a bit more about you as a person and how you got to sort of where you are now.
Well, actually, I am an entrepreneur for over 26 years now. I may not look it, but I'm actually 61 years old. Um, I've probably been or had an entrepreneurial mindset since I'm around, I don't know, it's got to be around 10 years old when I had two paper routes. And by the time I was 12, I was mowing lawns, cutting grass, raking leaves. It was an endless list, right? But around 18 years old, I ended up working for a uniform company in Montreal, where I was there for 12 years. And just due to my tenacity, my desire to try and go up the ranks, but never was able to simply because it was a private company and they wanted to keep those ranks down there. I ultimately decided to leave the company in 1996, which was in Montreal, the land of the best food and the best hot dogs and poutine in the world. And and I ultimately ended up in Toronto in 1990. I was late 95, but by 96, we opened up a uniform company in Toronto. And against the expectations of my former employers, I grew that company to just over $8 million inside of 3 years. Um, my partners took us out. I went into a 1 year non compete. And then in 2001, I decided to open up my second company, which I grew to roughly 7.9 million in about 4 years. And to make that story interesting, I ended up buying the company that I worked for in 1980. So they were
Excellent.
working for me now. They weren't going up the ranks. Um, but yeah, I mean that's where my career started as an entrepreneur. I mean, I've been involved in. I mean, my number one skill set sales. I've been in sales for 30 years, but developing and starting my own two companies, naturally, I became very proficient in manufacturing, domestic and international, or both domestic and international, distribution, logistics, HR. The list is endless. Especially finance, right? I mean, there's nothing better than a startup founder or a founder knowing their numbers when it comes to P&Ls, balance sheets, cash flow analysis, et cetera. So, and that's me in a nutshell. And then in 2002, I had triplets.
Oh, wow. As you do.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I went from not only managing a $7 million company, but now all of a sudden I'm changing 150 diapers a week. So
Oh,
It
wow.
was quite the adventure. And that's really me in a nutshell. And I actually exited the uniform industry in 2010, simply for a variety of reasons. The What made our company successful back then was the ability to buy from China. My partner was Chinese, so we had handshake deals where I was actually getting 90-day terms landed, where my competitors were paying at port. So that was a massive advantage for me to be able to just crush the market in Canada, which is much smaller than anywhere else. But I mean, $7 million is the equivalent of a 50, $60 million company in the US. Um, and ultimately, no, I mean, I left that industry in 2010 when the Chinese yuan just started to just tank, and the ability to buy product in 2010 just became astronomical. It was killing our margins, and
Yeah.
just exited. I mean, and there were other reasons, right? I mean, the economy made it where a lot of the companies no longer needed uniforms. They transitioned out of that. And I was in consulting for many years until I came across the opportunity of dissolving edible film technology.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment, but just a bit of context. I wanted to get your views on sort of packaging and sustainability. It's been a real drive and trend for the last 3 or 4 years. What sort of your views on where we are in terms of sustainability and packaging?
Well, when we started Stirs Brands, which was our consumer facing brand in 2019, which the idea was 2018, um, like I knew at that time there was a trend shifting towards where consumers were looking for more sustainable packaging, recycling, compostability. All these issues were starting to become trends. And I'll be honest with you, Paul, I'm actually glad where we are now with the transition into Sipz, the manufacturing arm, where today it's just elevated to a whole new level. Um, Climate change, ESG, environmental social governance, the packaging industry when it comes to new innovation for manufacturers and the brands that are trying to put products in front of their consumers. It's a whole new world today. And I think our timing is fortuitous, if you want to use the word, that we're now at a point where we think we can really make a huge impact. But I mean, if I look at sustainability as a whole, the challenge, I mean, greenwashing is so big. I mean, I come from, I've only been in this space for around 4 years now. And when I sit here and I look at compostable coffee pods, or if I look at compostable, like these type of, sachet packaging that's supposedly compostable, right? And we're finding out 2 years later that this is just no longer accurate. They're not biodegrading in, home compostable facility or home composting or even in anaerobic digesters. There are so many problems right now. And I sit here and I think to myself, the argument of LCAs over plastic versus paper, it's confusing not only for consumers, it's confusing for someone like myself who is in the packaging innovation space. We kind of feel like I'm being held back to where I'm sometimes afraid to even go out there and say, I'm going to use a paper packaging, right? Because that it's deforestation and all the the water, the usage of water, the energy resources to produce paper on the LCA side, which is worse than plastic. But then I've always said, ever since I started this, and what drives me is that humans, by sheer nature, are lazy. And because of that laziness, plastic takes the forefront of that laziness and becomes the biggest problem we're faced with, right? So Sipz in reality, I mean, we're going to discuss this in a moment, but you'll see what my long-term vision is when it comes to this product. But we are facing a lot of challenges. But ultimately, to answer that question with one answer, we must get to reusable. We must get there.
Yeah, and we're hearing that in other quarters as well. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, so we've sort of danced around. I want to find out more about it. So tell me about your proposition.
Yeah, ultimately, we started out as Stir's Brands, which was a consumer-facing brand with our dissolving edible coffee pouches. That's what they look like here. The idea was we wanted to use it as a combination of allowing outdoor adventurers to be able to access high-quality coffee without the waste, right? I mean, outdoor adventurers, their motto is pack in or pack out what you pack in, right? So we knew with our technology, you just drop a pouch into your coffee mug or your cup, add the water, the whole packaging dissolves, you drink the whole packaging. There's nothing to take out, right? And then ultimately, we've decided to create a new arm, which is Sipz, which is actually Stir's International Packaging Solutions. We added the Z on the end to be consistent. But ultimately, now that business will be the co-packing and the licensing arm for this technology. So what can we do? Well, as I mentioned, we can do coffee in the future. I mean, we can do coffee, but we're going to save that down the road a couple of years. Where we want to go into the market today is with our protein. We've got hydration. I'm sorry if you don't know if you saw that clearly enough. We've got energy pouches. We're going to be doing vitamin powders and so forth. Now, what is our film? We are the first market company that has actually taken a market proven technology and we are converting this to what we'll call a film that can be used to encase beverage powders. Now, there's hundreds, if not thousands of applications. We know we can scale into food products. We can scale into pet products. We can even eventually scale into nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, and even plant food. The kind that you would water your plants, right? But ultimately, right now we're going to be focused clearly on the beverage powders in the wellness and the performance sports powders to start, and also the vitamin powder space. Now, our film is made from Pulalan. It's a tapioca starch fermentation polymer. It is plant-based, and it is allergen-free, gluten-free, and vegan-friendly. But most importantly, the film is functional. And what I mean by functional is that we can add minerals, vitamins, fibers, all sorts of nutritional and beneficial values right into the film.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. And what about the consumer experience? I mean, you kind of mentioned it right at the beginning. I mean, how easy is it for a
Yeah,
consumer to adopt one of these?
well, right now, I mean, when we look at the protein and hydration space, for example, right? We all know that 99% of it is sold in big plastic tubs or small plastic tubs. Um, and the idea is that every tub comes with a plastic scoop, right? So every time you order, you get another plastic scoop. And the idea is you have to measure, and then you would scoop those 1, 2 scoops, or maybe even 3 into your shaker or your water bottle. Now, we know when putting it into water bottles, it's much messier, right? There's a lot of spillage, a lot of waste. And the idea for me was that these tubs are so big, I have to put them in a pantry. I've got to put them out of sight. When they're out of sight, they're out of mind, right? So a lot of times that leads to waste in that sense because the consumer is buying the product and not using it, right? So why not have a product that sits in a little, I'm not going to say it's exactly this one, but why not have it sitting in a little well-designed, well-crafted paper tube container sitting on your counter. You take your water bottle, you drop 1 pouch inside, okay, pre-measured with the exact dosage of a single serving, okay. I'm just going to show you how quickly it is, okay. We are done.
3 shakes, yeah.
3 shakes. You now have your protein powder, whether you're doing pre-workout, post-workout. And the same applies to any of the technology or the powders that we're putting in there. But keep in mind, we produce the film. The film dissolves 100%, but there are specific powders like whey proteins. Certain powders are only about 95 to 97% soluble, so those will not dissolve completely. But that's not our film, that's the powder. So the idea is we will co-pack, say, for example, there's so many brands in the market today that don't actually produce their own products. They will create a formulation and they will use co-packers and contract manufacturers to pack it. That's what we do. And we will also license the technology to vertical manufacturers.
Okay. And you mentioned quite a few applications. I mean, what are the priorities? What would you think are the biggest opportunities first in terms of categories, consumer categories?
I want to look at a combination of two things, Paul. I want to look at being able to create value for the client, which is the B2B customer, right? That could be a Glanbia of the world. It could be a Suntory. It could be a Haleon. It could be any other brand, right? If we can create value for them, all while giving them green credentials, right? Improve their bottom line, because we're not only cost competitive, we can actually be, in some cases, cheaper than flex film packaging. So we're able to create better margin. We're able to create better value for our customer, who in turn now gets to go to their consumer and say, we are powering our products with Sipz dissolving pouch technology to give you a level of convenience that you've never experienced before, right? Imagine now you have a product that you can take anywhere, anytime, no stress, no mess, okay? I mean, it doesn't get any more convenient than that for the consumer.
Okay. And what about shelf life? How does that compare? Well, I suppose. Yeah,
well, these pouches here are almost 10 months old, and they're as fresh as they were the day I got them. Naturally, what we do is we test every powder in our film for compatibility. We will test for pH balance, all the barriers, water vapor, oxygen, moisture, acidity, and more importantly, to get shelf stability of 9 months to a year. And that's really where we're at right now. And we're constantly in R&D trying to improve that.
So it sounds like you're quite close to having something that could have sort of market implementation.
Oh no, we're ready.
Yeah.
No, we're ready. We're ready to commercialize. All it means is that because we don't know the ingredients inside every powder, like say, for example, if I'm looking at, say, an emergency product, right? We know this is an orange flavored vitamin powder. We know there's going to be a higher level acidity in the film. So we're going to take that information and we would construct the film according to that ingredient.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure the shelf life or the product remains stable, right?
Okay. So imagine a brand owner, a retailer, an operator is watching this now, and they're thinking, "Oh, that looks interesting." What kind of hurdles would they need to jump to sort of, get this to market? What would they need to do in terms of working with you to make this happen? Is it a significant investment or?
No, I wouldn't say it's significant, right? I mean, the reason we went to the Poulan is because we knew that Poulan is already approved by the FDA. It's EFSA approved for consumption because that has been used as a delivery system for capsules, right? For whether it be medication or supplement capsules. So all we wanted to do is we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We wanted to be able to reinvent it only in the sense that we're going to take a capsule formation and restructure it to be able to have a polymer that could be used in case powders that could go actually into a drinking vessel rather than being consumed orally. And that's really what we've done, right? I know we have competitors, and I acknowledge and I accomplish, or I congratulate our competitors like Zampla, Notpla, and Flexi in the seaweed space. But I feel that with our technology, we could be in the market tomorrow, right? We are in a fundraise. That's the only thing really holding us back from our ability to scale at mass. Or for any customer right now, the idea is you would get in touch with us. And we would, number one, everybody wants to try our samples or with their powders or our powders. Once they approve the technology that it's something they want to work with, we then would lay out a complete roadmap. The roadmap, obviously, which would start with, pilot projects and, to eventually scale it out at their preference, right?
Okay. So in terms of the advantage for a potential new client, is they're getting a significant point of difference and a sustainability edge as well.
A big sustainability edge, and I haven't shown you yet. Like just to give an example, like I mentioned this one here. Like this is like a vitamin powder, one of the most popular in North America, and I'm pretty sure Emergencies in the Europe and UK. They produce over 750 million single serve sachets like this every year. Every one of these ends up in landfill. Imagine this to this.
Yeah.
Okay. But people will ask, how are you going to package your pouches? Well, we have a variety of different things, and I'm going to show you something very interesting right now. We're also working on a dissolving sachet. Okay. So the idea is that you would put I'll just stir it up. This would be the sachet. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're working in the labs right now from the food grade perspective. It's got food grade barriers as it is, but we're doing testing because keep in mind, the powders have our film already as a primary barrier. There would be a second barrier now with the sachet. And then once we put it into a container, we have a third packaging component, right? But the idea is that this dissolving paper, okay, in your toilet is absolutely non-toxic. It is approved by a variety of different ocean groups. Studies have been tested on it. It biodegrades in water in under 5 weeks. If it ended up in a specific environment, right? Sure. As a heavy packaging. Yeah. But as a sachet in the level of thickness microns we're producing for our sachets, they would dissolve, well, as you see. I haven't stirred it, right? I'm just showing you how it dissolves.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where we are moving in the future to where we can say to a customer that we can help you be completely green. And we're not no greenwashing, zero. We are an absolutely transparent brand. If there's somebody who has any issues or questions with what we're doing, we address it, we speak to it, and we acknowledge it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. It sounds like you've got, I absolutely love your enthusiasm, and I feel that if we had 2 hours now, we would fill that time without even taking a second breath. So right. What what's the best way for people to get hold of you if they wanted to find out a bit more about what you're doing?
I guess the best way would be to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Carl Pion, Carl. Last name is Pion, Pion. Or you can get me by email at cpion at stirs, STIRZ, brands.com.
Perfect. And we'll put that on the bottom so people can easily see that. So, Carl, thank you very much for your time, co-founder and CEO of Sipz. Really enjoyed the conversation, and I think you're onto something quite exciting. So thank you
No,
again for your
absolute
time.
pleasure, Paul. And thank you for having me on. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank